guys. I get a lot of questions, mainly from a lot of my friends, but a few of you have been asking me about how to get started into the tabletop gaming for Warhammer 40k. And I have a few friends that really want to get into it, but they feel a little bit intimidated about getting into the tabletop gaming because it can be pretty expensive, and it just feels like there's so much you got to learn about it. That's understandable. So this new video series I'm going to try to start is just to try to help ease some of the new people into the tabletop gaming to see if it's something they really want to do. And some of the best ways to figure that out is, honestly, is to go to a hobby shop. Just look for a hobby shop in your area. If you don't know how, the Game Workshop's website has a store locator you can use, and you put in your zip code and you find the closest place. Or you can just Google it. Just Google hobby shop and then put your zip code in there, and you just find a few places, if there are any, within your area. Go there, watch some people play some games, see if it's something you really want to get into. And if it is something you want to get into, try to figure out what kind of army you want, because there are a lot of different types of armies for Warhammer 40k. And one of the big concerns my friends have is they don't want to spend a lot of money on an army that it turns out they're not going to have fun with. And that's understandable. So again, I say, check out some hobby stores, or you can even look up some videos on YouTube. But if you guys still need a little bit more help, I'll let you know what you really need to get and need to know if you want to get into the hobby. If you know you want to play the game, but you're not sure how to start, well, the few things that you need to start with is, first off, the rulebook. Now, this seems pretty huge, but really, the large majority of this is just fluff. They add some pictures, they add some stories, and it's just really to look nice, and it's for the fans, but it has all the rules you need in here. And it has some, a lot of extra stuff, and, how to create examples on how to make the orcs or any other armies. If you get the Dark Angel starter set, or even eBay for the rulebook, this is what you get. It's a lot smaller. This has all of the rules. It doesn't have any of the fluff or story that this thing adds in. So this is really the rulebook you need. Not as intimidating as the big one, is it? So after you get the rulebook, next thing you need is a codex for whatever army you want. That's going to be a little bit tricky. Codexes, I have a few right here. They're the specific rules set for the army you're creating. They let you know what your units do, what their special abilities are, and how to play them. So since there's so many armies, which one is the kind of army you want? Well, really, that depends on your play style. Or if you're like me, I don't really pick an army that I really want to win with. I want to pick an army that I have fun with. An army that I feel has more of a personality to it, which is why I personally play orcs. I love orcs. I think they're fun to play with. They think they're fun. And I kind of build my armies on a theme. Sometimes I win. And if you're really into the book series, and if there's a special army set you like from the books, like a special Space Marine series you like to read, or Imperial Guard, or Eldar, or anything, then it might be best to try to recreate your own little personal army from those stories. And for somebody like me, I think that's the best way I go. I just try to have fun with my guys. I don't really try to win. There are some really hardcore players that just try to make the best unbeatable army, and that's fine for them too. But if you're still not sure what kind of army you want, I'll try to go over a few of the armies. Well, at least a few in this video. I don't want this video to get too long, so I'm going to probably split it up a little bit. First off, I want to talk about the Horde type armies. I personally love making Horde type armies. If you don't know what a Horde army is, it's pretty much an army that has a large number of units. It's not very powerful, not many upgrades, just a lot of numbers. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'm going to just get started with orcs, my personal favorite Horde army. Now to explain what I mean by a Horde army is, if you ever played a real-time strategy video game, a lot of them, they have population caps for your armies. Well, Warhammer 40k tabletop games have that too. It's a point value you set for the game, and you just try to build units up to that point cap. So Horde armies use a lot of low point characters to fight their battles. Orcs are very good at this. My favorite army. And to give you an example of how that works, I'll compare it to the Space Marines. Space Marines are strong units. The smallest Space Marine squad you can get is a squad of 5 Space Marines. They're about 90 points, depending on what kind of Space Marine army you go for, but we're going to say 90 points. For those 5 Space Marines, you could get 15 orcs. That's 3 to 1. And that's how orcs win. The orc horde army, you don't necessarily need to go horde. You could bring in a lot of heavy units, a lot of their vehicles, but the thing is with orcs is they have weak armor, and they're really bad shots. The idea is to shoot as many bullets as possible, and some of them might hit. So they have a lot of like high fire rate weapons, really bad accuracy, but it's not the shooting you really want to use for your orcs. You want to try to get into melee. The orc horde army, if you decide to go with the horde army, is the kind of army that tries to run from cover to cover, and you will lose scores of your orcs trying to get into melee, but once you get into melee, that's when you can really cause some damage. So generally, you probably lose maybe like half your forces before you even get into melee combat, but once that's done, pretty much game over most of the time. But what I really love about orcs is the humor that comes along with them. They have a lot of special abilities in some of their vehicles, and really, sometimes they could be their own worst enemy. There's a lot of randomness to the orcs, that sometimes they end up blowing themselves up. And that's a chance I like to take, because it usually causes a lot of fun. And I love doing conversions, and with the orcs, it doesn't matter how ugly your conversions are, they're orcs, it should be ugly. I'll show you some of my conversions in another video, but I don't want to get off track right now. But orcs, they're not the only horde type army. This is my favorite. Another horde type army, if you want to go for the more like super alien style army, and I know orcs are aliens, but these guys are even more aliens. You got the Tyranids. The weird bug, lizard things, creatures, snakes. This is another really big horde army. But they also have really strong, powerful units too. You know, they don't use like vehicles or anything. In fact, they have like living creatures as their own vehicles. In fact, I want you to take a look at the back page here. See, these are all your like mini weak horde units, but then you got the huge guys in the back. That's the kind of army you're running with Tyranids. And although they don't have the randomness of the orcs, they are better shots if you decide to bring in some ranged units in there. But when you're playing with the Tyranids, again, I would recommend just doing mass horde. I've played with guys that just try to use a lot of really powerful creatures. And you could do that, but in many of them, my experiences, those big creatures went down pretty quickly because they didn't have a lot of those smaller units just, you know, messing with everybody else. So you still have the similar tactic in running from cover to cover if that's your style and trying to run into melee, or you have your range guys in the back just shooting as much as they can. But there's also a lot of specialized units that have some very special abilities on how you get to outflank from the sides, a lot more strategy. You have special type of commander style units that actually give bonuses to your smaller units if you're within a certain range. So it's not really a mindless army. There is more strategy to it. Although similar to the orcs, it's a lot more brute force. But let's say you don't really like running into melee, but you still want a horde army. Well, we got the Imperial Guard for that. This is your basic human army. I know some people don't like playing humans because it seems too mundane because, well, you probably see humans every day. But if you want some range and a lot of very heavy vehicles, that's what you get the Imperial Guard for. In fact, I'm going to use that comparison again with the Space Marines. On the smallest squad of Space Marines is 90 points for 5 guys. Well, you could get almost 20 Imperial Guard soldiers for that. Almost 20, 19 closer. So those are a lot of units. Granted, their weapons are very weak. Well, their infantry weapons are very weak. But when you're just shooting them in mass, that is a lot of shots, and there's a good chance some of them are going to get through and kill off your enemies. In the Imperial Guard, they're another kind of horde army similar to the Tyranids. They have commander units that give bonuses and could support the basic troop units. In fact, give them commands so they could do special abilities, which is pretty cool. And of course, you have the very heavy vehicles. And it will be tempting for any of these armies to use your very high point heavy vehicles. But, like I said, they are high point. So it is a little bit of a risk putting that many points into an army that's designed to be mass army. But that's just a look at the Horde armies for now. I mean, usually I like playing Horde armies, so it's kind of easier for me to get into these armies. And if any of them sound appealing to you, it wouldn't hurt to look up some videos on YouTube, check it out. Again, I think the best way to do it is go to a hobby store and talk to some of the people there and watch a few games. Now, if you're trying to decide what kind of army you want, and you're looking through the codexes, normally in the hub ships that I've been to at least, they'll let you look at the codexes, they'll let you thumb through it before you buy it, see if it's really something you like. So don't feel like you have to just pick a codex blindly and then stick with that. A lot of people in the stores, they're very friendly. Again, the ones I've been to. And that's it for now for this episode. I hope I've been helpful. I'll have some more videos talking about the other armies pretty soon. If you have any questions, go ahead and email them to me or leave comments. I'm by no means any expert, but if you're brand new to this, I can definitely help you out if you want. Till then, those are my opinions. Take them for what they're worth.